looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Bethany Elsey here to bring you up to date from the GB newsroom. The first flight carrying British nationals out of Sudan has landed in Cyprus with around 40 people on board. Rishi Sunak says there'll be 2 more flights overnight and many more tomorrow. It's understood around 4,000 British passport holders have been trapped in Sudan since fierce fighting between military fractions broke out more than 2 weeks ago. The UK's rescue effort was given the go-ahead after they agreed to a 72-hour ceasefire, but reports of gunfire and explosions in major cities are making extractions perilous.
The first flight that left took everybody that was at the airfield and eligible is on that flight. There will be more flights this evening and then many more into tomorrow. We're contacting people both directly, but also we've issued out a general call for people if they can make their way to the airfield, they will then be processed. We can't guarantee the long-term sustainability of the airfield that we're currently using, so we're also exploring and standing up other alternative routes for safe exit.
President Joe Biden has officially announced he's running for a second term in office, saying the next election will be a fight for democracy and personal freedom.
The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. That's why I'm running for re-election.
The US president also confirmed that Vice President Kamala Harris will also run again alongside him. Donald Trump has released a video criticising Joe Biden for the so-called damage he's caused to the country and has called on his supporters for their vote.
With your support in the election, we will defeat Joe Biden in 2024. We will rescue our economy. We will crush inflation. We will stop the invasion on our southern border. We will restore our nation's dignity, and we will prevent World War III from happening.
Nicola Sturgeon has spoken out about the police investigation into SNP finances, saying she couldn't have imagined the events of the past few weeks in her worst nightmares. The former First Minister also said it wasn't true that she stepped down because she knew problems were about to unfold within her party. She was speaking at the Scottish Parliament for the first time since her husband's arrest. Peter Murrell, the party's former chief executive, was questioned by police earlier in the month and released without charge. The party's former treasurer, Colin Beattie, was also arrested last week and released pending further investigation. And the High Court has heard an allegation that Buckingham Palace and the publisher of the Sun newspaper struck a so-called secret deal in relation to phone hacking. In a 31-page document read out by the Duke of Sussex's lawyers, Prince Harry claims the deal aimed to prevent him and his brother from bringing forward claims against News Group newspapers. He also claims Prince William settled his case privately back in 2020. Prince Harry is currently suing the publisher over alleged unlawful information gathering. Kensington Palace has declined to comment. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now, though, it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. Joining me tonight to wring every bit of goodness out of tomorrow's papers are flatmates Josh Howie and Leo Kirst.
Hello.
Somebody left at home, minding the baby, I hope?
Yeah, Nick.
Is it? It's like the monkeys, isn't it? Anyway, OK, we have a massive bunch of juicy news to get through. Let's have a quick look at Wednesday's front pages, first of all. The Daily Mail, you need to accept you are poorer. And a chocolate bust of King Charles there to emphasise the point. The Telegraph, Harry court claims leave coronation peace hopes in tatters. Picture of Harry and Meghan there, candidly caught in an airport departure lounge, I think. The Guardian, Charles undermined Queen over plan to sue Murdoch, says Harry. Same story. The Eye have UK troops ready to use force in Khartoum airlift. The Daily Mirror, food banks heartbreak. Kids need 1 million meal kits. The Metro has Run for Your Lives. And those were your front pages. So we begin with the Telegraph, Josh, and royal shenanigans.
Oh, wow.
94.
Story that just keeps on giving for decades and decades. Harry court claims leave coronation peace hopes in tatters. So he's suing the Sun and I believe it's Sun, for phone hacking and whatnot. But he's revealed that he's claiming that, first of all, that the Sun gave a bunch of money to his brother. And also that he was told, like, he had the Queen on board. He was like, Granny, are you going to back me up here? And she was like, yeah, I'm back. And she wrote some statements and backed him up. And then suddenly it all kind of went away. And he's claiming it's because, like, Prince Charles, now King Charles, made a deal with the Sun that they would sort of make his journey to kingdom and also Camilla's queen consort smooth.
That they would support the succession.
That's the idea behind it. But I find it hard to believe because The Sun is such a rubbish newspaper that I don't know if anybody would really care what The Sun says.
It does strike me as a bit odd that Charles would care that much about whether the Sun specifically. He would obviously want the balance of
maybe
the entire Murdoch empire.
That would be it. Yeah.
I think it's a wider conspiracy.
Well, this thing Harry's always talking about, a conspiracy, them leaking stuff to the royals, leaking stuff to the papers against them. So this just ties into the rest of it. He needs a tinfoil hat. He needs to go on InfoWars, talk about Prince Charles or King Charles putting robots in the sewers to spy on him and stuff.
Are you suggesting that he thinks that Charles was feeding tittle-tattle on Harry to Murdoch's empire?
Well, that's what he said before. He said before that, there's a sort of conspiracy against him with the royal family doing these leaks to sort of weaken him and Meghan. I don't know, I think they're doing a good enough job on their own.
I know, I can't think of a single story that hasn't literally come from his own book. I mean, it's not like you have to scratch around in the dirt for
I just realised this is an ongoing court case, so everything that we just said is not true.
Yeah.
But I will say, I did read I read into it a little bit. It does seem that he had a specific occasion on which he was called to the palace and informed that he was to, drop the story, Harry, it's dead, We're sending you out, and he's like some reporter who's like trying to chase a lead that there are powers that are trying to kill
There is also a credible say. He writes here. He says says here, how much more blood will stain their typing fingers before someone could put a stop to this madness? This is me. These are my typing fingers.
How hard are they typing?
Index fingers that journalists use.
Yeah. But it's interesting is so Queen Elizabeth II, that's the person, not the ship, was going to sue or threaten Rupert Murdoch's media company with legal action, but then King Charles, or Prince Charles as he was known then, talked her out of it.
I mean, I do believe he is more nervous than anybody else in the royal family was about it might be snatched away from him, having waited for 50 years or whatever for this. I do understand that as well, psychologically. I'm not sure it should have governed his decisions, but you can understand it. What doesn't seem to me plausible is that it would be the Sun, as you say, that it would be that would be, because they just don't have that kind of gravitas.
Not anymore. I mean, now I prefer the Daily Star.
Yeah.
For my toilet read.
I should know this, but is he still expected to attend the coronation? Is Harry coming?
He's going, but Meghan isn't.
Yeah.
Well, that was the last thing, but now, because of this, that's what they're saying.
Because the big story this morning was about Camilla Parker Bowles' previous husband is going to be there. Is it Andrew Parker Bowles?
Oh.
Good old Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good
And I thought that was enough to sort of create... That's a nice EastEnders type scenario. Anyway, we will move on to our
Get out of my coronation!
Shut it, you toilet. Right, I'm not sure which one that would be. Metro, Leo.
Yeah, Metro is the slightly alarmist headline, run for your lives, but they're talking about Sudan, so the civil war there. I mean, it's sort of developed into a civil war. It was a sort of uprising by the RSF, the former Janjaweed militias.
Ooh,
Janjaweed sounds like something you get texted by a South London drug dealer.
Yeah.
We've got Janjaweed in this week, but so they're backed by Wagner, the Russian militia mercenaries.
No.
So it's all all kinds of bad guys going going on. So it's been going on for 10 days, and the country's in absolute turmoil. People have fled to other countries surrounding them. People are going to be fleeing to the UK as well, coming across the channel in small boats, no doubt. But they've announced a 72-hour ceasefire to sort of let people escape and let people get
So
safe.
they're making their way to the airstrip, very much as in Kabul. They'll be sort of running up and trying to climb in through cavities, you know, that are supposed to hold wheels and so on. Is that the kind of scenario we're looking at?
Possibly. That did happen in Afghanistan, but I don't think. I think in Sudan, you know, people can still escape to their families in the countryside and stuff. So it's
Sudan, my history is a bit moth-eaten, but wasn't it? It's Khartoum, is it, in Sudan?
That's where
Which was
Khartoum is.
General Gordon, wasn't it? This was one of the first major evacuations that the British Empire failed to pull up. And,
Oh, really? So we've got some form here.
I think there's a bit of a sort of echo in the deep past.
But we have been, Brits are told, make your own way to the airstrip. That's not...
It's not a good sign.
Good. Yeah.
Things are kicking off in
Type in
certain
Google
parts of the
Maps,
world.
get a bus.
So the army has said, the British army has said they are prepared to use force if they have to do so to evacuate.
Which
Brits.
would be what, like mowing down anyone trying to stop the Brits on the airstrip? I mean, that would take a certain amount of confidence, wouldn't it? Unleashing that sort of distance. OK, so that's the Metro. I think those stories are covered in the other papers. The Daily Mail as well, Josh.
Yeah, Fury as £190,000 a year bank chief tells the rest of us, you need to accept you are poorer. So this is someone who works for the Bank of England. He's an economic economist.
Economic economist.
And you criticise the Sun.
Feeling particularly thick today.
It's not from Canadian.
Yeah, you know, he's not from
Not like
Canadian.
the last one.
So this economist has basically said, look, stop trying to get pay rises. Stop moaning about everything being more expensive. We're all just poorer and we all have to suffer.
And you
of course,
did this.
and the difference is, of course, that he's got a couple of £100,000 a year. He lives in a £1.5 million house in Bayswater. So his level of poorer is slightly different from a lot of other people.
It's tactless, but he's probably not wrong, is he? I think there is a grain of truth, and it probably comes from a degree of seniority as an expert, as much as from his own position as a wealthy man, to say, you need to understand we are moving through an economic crisis, if not a recession. And he is probably one of those people who strongly advised against Brexit. I suppose that's probably reading with...
There's more than a grain of truth. There's a whole cornfield of truth there. And, you know, people are criticising him for being rich. Oh, how dare he be successful? And he got successful because he gives brilliant economic advice. And I agree with them on this. You know, every trying to unionise and claw whatever they can for themselves. But every time a group of people get a pay rise, that pushes inflation up, and we get into this Weimar-esque.
Well, it's very similar to people taking wooden crates to pop concerts and sporting events, isn't it?
Yeah.
If one person stands on one, you're fine. But if everyone stands on one, you're just back to where you started.
I'm going to clip that, Leo, and I'm going to send that to HR here. I know your contract's up for negotiation.
Can we just mention the Charles, the chocolate Charles? Do you have any kind of background?
It's already melting.
Yeah. It's not very flattering. I saw a lovely portrait of him in his full military regalia, looking quite comfortable in his... And that was quite... But I don't think he looks well in chocolate.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say I've done worse.
I think a chocolate fireguard would have been more appropriate.
Yeah, very true. We finish off with the Daily Star, Leo.
So this leads with the story. I mean, this is shocking. They say scientists have come out and said that Jaffa cakes are the best biscuits for dunking, which is just, it blows my mind. They're obviously not, well, number one, they're not a biscuit, they're a cake. That's why they're called Jaffa cakes.
It says
also,
orangey treat.
They're built... everything about them is the worst for dunking. The cake material just crumbles into the juice and gets subsumed by liquid immediately. The chocolate melts immediately, gets all over your fingers. The orange bit will just fall into the tea and taste disgusting. It doesn't go with tea whatsoever.
It's trolling, isn't it?
I think, this is bait to get us to react, and it's working because I'm reacting. But these are scientists. Then they want us to believe them on climate change.
Yeah.
It's like, no way. You couldn't even get hobnobs right.
In a year and a half, I have never seen Leo so upset. Even more than Albanians. So if we can get some Albanians eating Jaffa cakes into tea...
To be fair, the Daily Star is angry about this as well. It's calling it the world's worst poll, and I think that is fair. Incidentally, do you know the difference between a cake and a biscuit? There is a technical difference. A cake... Apart from the one that you double-baked biscuit, which is why it's called pie.
A cake dries out and goes hard.
Correct.
A biscuit goes soft.
Yes, exactly, which is so Jaffa cakes really are a cake.
So why don't they make biscuits out of cake and then they'll stay hard?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's a soggy biscuit?
Well, that's how they dunk, I suppose, but that's a question, yes. Depends which school you went to. So let's have a little breather after that news onslaught. You can go and put the kettle on and have a couple of dunkers. We will see you in part 2 with Biden snooze, passport queues and King Charles sues. Actually, I think we've done that one, but we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners with me, Simon Evans, Josh Howie and Leo Kerr. So, Josh, we kick off with a story in the Mail about an elderly man who occasionally embarrasses himself with a teleprompter turn and smile at Josh.
Very good.
Thank you.
Biden's brutal poll numbers as he announces his White House bid. 70% of Americans don't want him to run, and a dwindling number of Democrats have his back. So that's 70% of all Americans basically don't want him to run. I think what would be interesting is if it gets up to his actual age. That would be kind of cool, and then it stops. And it's like, all right, we've proved our point now. But
can I make an observation there?
Yeah.
I don't know how they poll these people, and I don't know exactly what question they ask them, but it is possible, isn't it? It's conceivable that some Republicans wouldn't want him to run because they think he will win and he will continue to be president. No. And they're afraid of that being an outcome that they don't like. In which case he would probably go, good, then I'm going to run.
No, I think both sides. So the Democrats want Trump to run, and the Republicans want Biden to run because they're both, not likely candidates to win.
It's the question whether they ask them, should he run, or would you like to see another 4 years? Because obviously the Republicans would just say, well, no, obviously. But if they're asking them whether they want him to run, I don't know, it feels like it's not exactly game theory, is it? You want their weakest candidate to run, don't you? I mean, I would say that. You know.
But weirdly, only 6% of Americans want a rematch.
Right.
They don't want this kind of Rocky 2.
No.
See who's going to survive.
Have the Democrats... I mean, they've got no choice now, of course. He's the incumbent president. You get to see that's his
51% of Democrats don't want him to run.
It's extraordinary. But I don't know who else they would look at. I mean, Warren's disappeared, hasn't she? Bernie Sanders has
and Kamala Harris is incredibly unpopular.
She's less popular than him.
Even less popular than him, as if that was possible.
But in the video that they put out, she's like featured, someone counted it 13 times. So she's very much been pushed forward.
Yeah.
As is, you know, he'll be 86 by the next time he...
I assumed when they put him in this time that he was essentially a stalking horse that would get into position, and after 18 months he would gracefully retire, and they would have in position, you know, the first female president would have overcome all those, you know, potentially, you know, chauvinistic reluctance. Well, it hasn't happened, and now he's going to go for another one.
No, I think it's a huge folly and a huge act of ego by Joe Biden to do this.
I agree. Well, watch this space. Independent now, Rishi Sunak is hoping to avoid a scandal over Gates. What would they even call it?
So Rishi Sunak seeks a deal with the EU to end the Brexit border chaos for holidaying Brits. So the long days passport control is among the unpopular fallouts from Brexit. And it could be solved by using e-gates, which some countries, I think Spain and Portugal, already let us, even though we've left the EU, they let us use the e-gates.
Less issue-y countries.
Yeah, I think Brexit is being rolled back bit by bit. It's being chipped away. It's not entirely, you know, a bad thing. I know it's sort of anti-democratic, but it's for the smooth functioning. It means you get to go on holiday and you still get duty-free. You get the best of both worlds.
Yes.
You can use the e-gate and you get a bottle of brandy for £8.
And 400 cheap fags.
This e-gate thing is really important. Now, I know I sometimes bang on about the economy, but the reality is when I used to go on these Brexit marches, that was really all I cared about was queuing up at customs.
The funny thing is, though, that is what people will remember. If they spend a day when they're supposed to be on holiday sitting in a car with screaming kids, that is what they will remember, and they won't notice that they're £5,000 a year poorer or whatever.
No, because it's too incremental.
Exactly. It's the boiling frog thing, isn't it? Whereas suddenly, those A2 traffic queues are pretty horrendous.
So it's not, and it's not just when we're going through the Eurotunnel or whatever. It is like at these larger customs flying in. Like there are huge waits. At the moment, so...
Well, I hope he can sort it out. It does feel like it would be a fairly easy kind of...
but what do we have to give them for it? It's like they're not just going to do it for free. Like, the whole point was to prove that it was bad to leave the EU.
Yeah, but we can go to Europe and spend our money. We're still richer than a lot of European nations.
Not for much longer.
Yeah, we are. Look, come on.
That would be...
But that's nonsense. I think we're a bigger economy than most.
So where are you going to go? You're going to go holiday, summer, Poland?
I'm going to Tenerife. Tenerife.
There would actually be an opportunity, wouldn't there, for instance, Croatia, which is a lovely holiday destination, but is fairly poor, generally speking. They could go, come,
easy
we've
for
got a
Brits.
special machine for you.
Look, we've got all these plastic chairs for you to throw in the town fountain. Knock yourselves out.
Dubrovnik, here we come. Josh, The Guardian have news of some appalling Nepali treatments.
Wow, you're on it tonight.
I am.
UK secretly deported 100 Nepali guards who protected the staff in Kabul. And this is kind of an upsetting story. They were there when the last time the Brits were evacuated. These guards, they were risking their lives, literally, to make sure that British citizens escaped. They were brought out on these transports as well, given 6-month visas when they got here, and then after a few days or so, they were like, oh no, you've got to go now.
Whipped around straight back in.
And it just seems really unfair.
And Nepal, they didn't want it to happen, and this wouldn't justify it either way, but Nepal, is it a dangerous country at the moment?
It's on the red list. So, yes.
Even if you're Nepali, though?
Even if they're Nepali. So a few people have come back and are claiming...
Nepal is dangerous for Nepalis.
Yeah. it might be, but I didn't think... it never used to be. It used to be, like, the safest, nicest,
the people who've served in the army or have affiliations with other countries or whatever it is.
Well, they're tooled up. If anybody comes at them, they'll...
Well, they're the Gurkhas, aren't they?
But now the government is sort of saying, they've stopped the people that they were about to deport as well. They're going, we're doing it pending review. So obviously now it's come to light. The government are like going, this actually makes us look bad. It
does make them look bad. I think they should let in Nepalis. I like them.
Well, this is the thing about the government. They always deport the wrong people. It's
true.
People in this country were worried about grooming gangs. We were worried about terrorism, and the government said,
clerics.
Fine, we're gonna deport the Windrush generation. We're like, what are you doing? The most loved people, the 75-year-old.
That old man there in a pork pie hat and scar records.
Playing some dominoes? No, not him. Are you mental? Like, it's ridiculous. This is the same sort of thing. These are, like you say, they're much loved people that made a huge contribution to Britain. So, yeah, I just think
is
it's
it
ridiculous.
not? I think it's Buddhist, isn't it, Nepal? I mean, I may be wrong, but I seem to remember it was full of Buddhist temples. They're not known for, terrorism or active, yeah. But might occasionally ask a small boy to suck a tongue, I suppose. Anyway, Leo!
Back to boarding school.
Over to the Telegraph now. Tears are flowing across the border, it seems.
Yeah, so Nicola Sturgeon says the SNP police investigation is her worst nightmare. So she made an appearance at Holyrood, and it's her first appearance since her husband's
And she was
arrest.
stark naked. No, that would be her worst nightmare.
No, before you turn off.
Is that your worst nightmare?
Nicola Sturgeon, not,
And she said, she gave this interview trying to, make herself look a bit more human, because she can see where this is all going. And she says her resignation was not linked to the turmoil, which is one of the least believable things she said. She also said the SNP is in good shape, which I don't know what she's been smoking. Must be some of that ganja weed.
I'm in good shape.
And she said previously, of course, she said she was unaware of the loan that her husband, the chief executive of the SNP, Peter Murrell, gave to the SNP, the party that she was leading.
Yeah.
And how can you be unaware of
She
the
would
loan?
have gone to bed early one night. He would have been sitting up, going through his emails. Peter, can you lend us a couple $100K? Oh, there's no point in waking up Nicola about this. She needs her sleep.
But we haven't seen her for about a week or so. Now, she said she was working at home in her constituency. I believe she might have just got a little camper holiday.
Well, she might be camping in that tent if the police left it up.
Or got the tent. She's got so many options. She's got the motorhome.
She could have gone on a camper holiday because there's nothing camper than her husband.
I do wonder. There is a kind of collapse, not just of Nicola Sturgeon, not just of the SNP, but of the credibility of a huge raft of journalists who all said that it was an extraordinary act of statesmanship, very much like Jacinda Ardern, She steps back, she shows you how it's done, not like that beast Boris who clung on to power far too long, or let alone Trump, of course. Meanwhile, these women, the new generation of politicians, are showing you how to gracefully remove yourself from the stage just before your police.
Much like
is swarming with investigations.
The skipper of the Costa Concordia. Somebody stepping onto a lifeboat just before it explodes.
Independent now, Josh, and they are disappointed that a state of mind has not been made a criminal offence. At least that's what I'm projecting onto this headline.
Government confirms misogyny will not be made a hate crime. So this is not to be mixed up with the government's laws to ban things like wolf whistling and hassling women.
This is the notion that misogyny would be a factor in what was a crime.
Yeah, exactly. So adding it to other potential characteristics, which would be making being a woman, like ethnicity and whatnot. So they're saying that the reason why they're not doing it is because it would confuse matters too much. When you have crimes committed against women, like domestic violence or sexual violence, that it would create this like two-tier system where some things they might go through as a hate crime and some things they would go through as the crime.
What, like they've got with race? They've got a two-tier system where...
Well, they do, They have a two-tier system with a number of things. And hate crime, I find it puzzling. I mean, I studied law 30 years ago. There was obviously nothing like this then, that you were judged on your mens rea and actus reus, i.e. the state of mind you had. Were you intending to commit an offence, or were you reckless as to whether this damage might be done? And then had you committed the offence? The idea that there was any kind of poisonous ideology that might have been prompting you to enter the mens rea, that would have struck, I think, most of us as...
Mens rea, the men's room?
Men's area. Mens rea just means evil mind. But... I just find the whole thing bizarre. And the very fact that they've kind of gone, well, this will just confuse things. You go, good, now look at the other stuff. It's like...
And I think if we're going to look at hate crime, I mean, calling somebody a racist when they're not a racist or there's no evidence of them being a racist, that should be a hate crime. That causes far more damage than, if somebody is openly racist at work, they'll be immediately fired.
Yes.
They'll be shunned by colleagues and all the rest of it, and quite rightly so. That's, culturally and socially where we are. But, calling someone racist is a crime that has a huge impact on the victim and has you get lauded. Even if you're wrong, you get carried carried on the shoulders of everybody because they're too scared to say you might be wrong.
Malignant gossip.
Yeah.
Should be, yeah. I mean, I do tend to agree with you. It's not quite libeled here, but there is the capacity to ruin people's lives with, and obviously, like social media and so on these days, it makes it much more, than just whispering in the...
They did it whilst using a Jaffa cake.
Yeah.
Given a tea.
Yeah.
I mean,
which, you should never do.
He's so angry now. You're just trying to actually literally make him explode on it. It's like that little man in the Pixar movie. Anyway, another breather beckons, but stay tuned for falling bud sales, cheating runners, and the new Barbie doll. See you in a couple of minutes.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories. Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners. So we have the Daily Mail to kick off the third quarter now, Leo, and perhaps the least enraging sports-related transgression I can remember.
Yeah. So they're trying to make a big story out of this, but this transgender competitor exploited a loophole to finish ahead of 14,000 women in the female category at the London Marathon. Has defended his/her/their whatever taking part as photos show them competing as a man. They're a bloke, you know what I mean?
Obviously a bloke competed as a man in the New York Marathon like 4 months ago or something.
Yeah. And the loophole was that they allowed transgender athletes to compete. So that's the loophole.
As they say, he thing, whatever, it finished ahead of 14,000 women, but behind, what, 6,000?
Came in 6,160. So They're not exactly taking a medal
anyone
from
that
anybody.
far back has dropped back a place.
Seriously, if you got beaten by that, you're terrible.
Yeah.
You're terrible at running.
Well, it has to be said, of all the sports, I think marathon, I mean, they are a little bit faster, male runners, but it's not like orders of magnitude like it is, you know, there are some sports where upper body strength and having gone through puberty as a male and so on are decisive. But you have bigger hearts.
There's lungs as well.
Men the records are about just over 2 hours for the men's, about 2 hours and 5 minutes for the women now. I mean, it's you know, it's not like he's entered weightlifting or something.
Yeah, but I think the principle of it is that men do have an advantage, so you know we shouldn't be letting men. You know,
no, he shouldn't be in there. But it's crazy to get upset.
He'd put no effort in. Just look like a bloke.
I mean, when I've only run one marathon. I ran the New York Marathon in 1993, and my time was 5 hours and 3 minutes, and at least 5 of those minutes was me getting to the start line. You know, so when you're that far back and non-competitive, you know, the idea that there's any kind of, you know, feather adjustment.
She was raising money for charity and all of that stuff. But he goes as Batman in these other ones, and now he wants to go as Batgirl, which is much harder. That's why his time's slower. He's got the heels on.
Oh, right, yeah, and probably a heavier gadget belt as well. He's got all the nippy on there and everything, yeah. So more trans news now, Josh, and this is more serious and encouraging, frankly. Bud Light have got a new plunging neckline, not in their ads, but on their sales graph.
Indeed. Bud Light sales tank after woke advert with trans activist Dylan Mulvaney. So they sent a crate to her which had her face in it or something like that. Yeah. They thought, oh, this is a good idea, let's bring the trans thing in and whatever. Yeah. And then it's the most popular beer in America.
Is it really?
Yeah, I know, which is incredible because it's rubbish.
Yeah.
And it's had a 21% drop in volume up to this week. So and it has been in, so it was 17% and now it's gone to 21%. So it's not like it's sort of a little blip. It's still ongoing. And I think people are upset and they're using this. And yes, right-wing commentators and all these other people have like gone in on it as well. But at the same time, I think there is a genuine frustration out there, and they're sort of taking it out on this corporation and going, look, we just want to drink beer. Yeah. We don't want to be preached to or
so much of this in the last few years. I mean, we watched. Somebody shared on the Twitter the other day a Gillette advert from the 90s, and it was like something from a different civilization. You know, the aspirational images of basically Ivy League rowers, you know, and men getting married and shaving themselves and looking in the mirror and feeling pleased with their masculinity. It was like a hate crime. You know, it was just like, oh my God.
A civilization that was proud of itself and wanted to stay strong.
Absolutely, and had an idea of what an ideal man might look like, even though you knew you couldn't possibly end up looking like that. You know, you did kind of go, not so bad.
Is that why you stopped shaving?
Exactly, that's right. That's why I've stopped drinking Bud Light as well. I mean, I don't know. It's obviously, it could be just one little marketing manager. She's been on a tip of madness.
She's been fired, and obviously she's come in, she's surrounded by all these university-educated wokists, so she thinks, oh, this is great. Yeah, everybody loves, transgender activism, don't they? But no, it's Bud Light. It's just for sports bros to drink outside their trailer and chug while they're watching the sports game. They don't want to have all this LGBTQ
what
ideology.
What is wrong with him being hired by Aperol Spritz or something like that?
Yeah, he was hired by Tampax. He was hired by, and so these organisations now, like Nike, they need to learn, just stay out of this stuff. Yeah. Make your goods good.
And because Bud Light can't even apologise, because then people will be like, well, you're transphobic.
Welcome to the nightmare. Leo, back to the Mail. And this kind of thing, I think, is much more how the war against the machines is going to play out, rather than with space lasers.
Yeah, so Uber has come under fire amid claims that it charges users more if their phone battery is running low. And it kind of makes sense, because if your phone battery is running low, it suggests that you're a bit ditzy, you don't remember to charge your phone, your phone could die at any moment, and then the Uber can't find you. Yeah. So, it does kind of...
It will provoke you to make it go, I need the taxi, whatever happens, I've got to do it now.
Yeah, they do similar things. They do similar things when they're assessing you for insurance. They look at all these different variables in your life to see where you live, what your parking situation is like and all the rest of it.
Right.
So Uber's denied this. The difference, was quite small. It was €17.56 compared to €16.60. So about a euro difference. Not a huge
week's wages.
Not a huge amount. But Uber has flat out denied this, and it just seems weird to me because it seems like something that would be something they do.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right actually to say it's just like insurance and so on. It wouldn't even necessarily be immoral, let alone illegal. But I am curious to know whether they do it because they think, they're in a tight spot, they're worried their phone battery will go down, and so they are likely to jump at any offer, however absurdly high. Or do they do it because they think 1 in 10 of these will fall through because by the time the car gets there, the phone has gone dead and you won't even get your message?
I think they just want to make as much money if they were doing it. But it's like that in Brazil, they had these vending machines that go, as the temperature goes up, the price goes up.
Right.
Nice.
So, yeah.
But that is just the free market working, because that would happen in a shop. I remember on the first few days that you were allowed back on trains, but you had to wear masks, and I kept going to Hove Station without a mask. There was a massive pile my wife had bought by a gross by the front door, and I would leave. But you get to the train station, there's a newsagent there, and he was selling single masks, £2 each. And I was like, this is war profiteering.
Just say you're
but
exempt.
Of course, that's it.
All you need to do is say you're exempt. Say not all disabilities are visible and no mask.
I had respect for my fellow passenger and also wanted to swear under it. So, cute news now, and in the Mirror, Barbie continues to change the world, one cluttered toy basket at a time.
Indeed, Mattel unveils first ever Barbie doll with Down syndrome in an historic launch. And I think this is great.
Yeah.
Great. They've sort of they've put lots of touches on it. Which, in terms of what it's dressing, lots of symbolism towards also like the 3 chromosomes and whatnot.
Symbolism? What is she wearing, like a 3 chromosome badge or something?
Well, yeah, there's this 3 upward chevrons which represent the 3 copies of the 21st chromosome. There's like lots of little touches like that.
The people who know will understand.
And for children, and especially most girls who are Down syndrome, to be able to have a doll that looks like them. I think this is great, and also for other children, as it says here, for other children as well to play with dolls. And,
I will say this: I agree with you, and I think in terms of inclusivity, this is the good sort, and I'm absolutely behind it. I still think Barbie herself is like an absurdly, idealised.
Oh, no,
yeah, exactly. But there is that. All small girls kind of look at her and don't feel that she's anything like them, really. And her face, to be honest, I don't think it has a very pronounced Down syndrome look.
I didn't notice when I saw it. I just thought they were showing. I just thought they were showing a regular Barbie. It just looked like a regular Barbie.
From any kind of distance.
Yeah, this is a nice thing. I mean, who doesn't like Down syndrome people? Also, I've noticed, I've met quite a few Down syndrome people lately for one reason or another, and they seem much more intelligent now than when I was a kid. I don't know if that's a terrible thing to say, but
that's
I don't know.
Well, maybe they have found ways of educating them.
Different levels as well.
Right.
But the interesting thing is to see how much this will sell. I was in the toy shop the other day. We've got to buy some presents for my son, and I noticed that there were lots of wheelchair Barbies, but it seemed like there was a lot of not sold ones at the bottom.
Yeah, well, it's like disabled parking spaces. They're almost always empty, but you probably just have to build that into the model, I suppose, don't you, and accept it. I have often thought, and I'm going to go even worse than you here, but maybe or less politically correct, they are just so joyous, are they not? Yeah, I mean, and I just kind of wish you could kind of work out what genetically is making them so happy.
Yeah.
How can we learn to experience that level of gratitude with what we have?
Yeah.
I don't get ridiculously sentimental about it, but I honestly think there's a lot to be learned from that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get the doll and work from there. In an unprecedented, sustained burst of a second good news story in a row.
Yeah.
The Guardian have evidence that children are reading books.
Yeah, children read almost 25% more books last year, according to the study across the UK and Ireland. And the strangest thing for me was apparently this is being driven by TikTok. So there are book-reading communities on TikTok, which I thought just exclusively existed to...
eliminate books.
Sow degeneracy and groom youth and replace books. But apparently it's stimulating interest in reading. So all these kids are on there being all like,
fantastic.
Oh, I've read this book. Oh, you should read it. It's called War and Peace. It's really...
So there were two things that are bad news, right? So, there are 2 bad things. One, they're reading David Walliams books.
Oh, yeah.
Which, if you have children, David Walliams is crap. OK? Almost any other professional author
It's not as bad as David Walliams himself.
No. Although the Wimpy Kid books, which are the other popular ones, they're very good. But they're also saying they're getting into it, but they're not raising their ambitions.
Yeah, they're not trying hard. And this is, 4 boys. My daughter's reading pretty well, actually, but or pretty good. But this is like the bane of my life. We went on holiday, which was amazing, and I was like, you've got to take a book with you, and I was trying to encourage them the whole time, and I'm trying to explain to them, the more you read, the better your life will be, and when you get past that point where it becomes fun, it's not hard to read anymore, then your whole world opens up, and I'm trying to get this across them, like literally their whole lives, and it is so painful where I have to just sit down with them and force them to read to get to that point.
But it's hard. Matilda, my daughter, absolutely avid reader from an early age. Harry Potter probably was the one that, got her into it. But I promise you she would, burn through a novel in a single day. Edward, my son, just no interest. He will read what he needs to for school, but he will not read for pleasure. He's 15 now, and you have to kind of go, that's who he is. He'd rather play the piano or whatever,
No.
It's not like that. You're just not having it, no.
Kick him out.
Read the Torah. Final section coming up, and it's a doozy with mobility scooter tests, stripping for art, and cow urine. It's going to be absolute filth. See you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Hello, I'm Calvin Robinson. Do not miss my Common Sense Crusade Saturdays at 7 p.m. Join me for some in-depth discussions on faith. Is that not the start of the slippery slope?
It's very much so.
And the big moral questions of the day. I'm baffled.
You've got some nerve.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners for one final section. Daily Mail to kick us off, Josh, and I am being goaded into resorting to one of my signature routines here.
Oh, OK. So mobility scooter users encouraged to take a driving test under new plans. This is after this 92-year-old lady was killed in a supermarket. That's not...
In a supermarket?
In a supermarket. Queue.
Wait, supermarket car park?
No, supermarket queue, it says here.
Checkout.
Wow.
Check out the checkout. Morrison's.
How was she killed?
Mobility scooter. Well, she's old.
Yeah, mobility sort of, and then, but this is the thing: the mobility scooter that drove off, and they never caught them.
Yeah, how do you not catch a mobility scooter?
I mean,
the scooter hit the 92-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought she was on the scooter.
Not the license plate.
OK, right.
Right. Do they have license plates?
No.
But I mean, surely you can just walk.
There
or
must
just
be
shut,
CCTV
just
in a
slowly
supermarket.
shut the door in front of it.
Yeah,
Or it runs
it's
out of
not a
battery or
high-speed
something like that.
chase, is it?
Anyway, but after that, at this inquiry, they're saying that maybe that there should be some kind of driving test to teach people how to use them and whatnot. I think that's a pretty good idea. Although at the end of the article it says the article's been updated to say actually it would just be encouraged, not required. So then it's not a test.
I mean, I think a lot of old people who possibly, get in need of it would probably quite welcome a little bit of instruction, and would possibly even welcome the company, and the structure to their lives and that sort of thing. When, I don't think it would necessarily be an
mostly
intrusion.
not old people, though, is it?
No,
Who actually
but there
seem
are
to
a
be
lot
on
of
it.
different people out there. Who get
The whole point of having a mobility scooter is that you're not that capable. So, what are you going to do if you test them and they're not capable? You're going to take away their wheels?
Take away their fourth gear, maybe. I don't know. Even on my BMW now,
the turbo boost, just disable that.
Even on my BMW, I've got a cruise control which has an automatic sensor which knows as soon as you set the speed, it also knows you want to have at least 30 yards in front of you.
I didn't know BMW did mobility scooters.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's got a roof and everything. That's what the M stands for. British Mobility Whoosh. No, it's great. I mean, you always have, all these kind of, what do you call them, like alarms or whatever, or when you're reversing now, but it will actually stop you if you want to set that.
Right.
It'll actually brake you.
Proximity detectors.
Yeah. Yes. And then it will apply the brakes and it will bring you to an absolute halt on the motorway from 70 miles an hour if you're If you happen to be sort of suddenly got a wasp or something and you don't notice the traffic stopped.
Right, yeah. But then you don't want a moth flying into the sensor, just doing 80 on the outside lane.
I think they have two cameras, one on either side. Honestly, I don't know how it works. It is insanely good. When you're parallel parking, you get an overhead view as if taken from a satellite.
Yeah, I've seen
I have
that.
no idea how it's doing it. It's just like, it's really creepy.
I think it's the spirit of the car.
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh, I've got a Fiat.
Jeremy Vine clearly has one on his cycling helmet as well, incidentally. Times now, Leo. I'm slightly confused why our fellow GB News presenter Darren Grimes wants to clone his voice, but...
So this is Grimes, possibly a relation of Darren, the singer, Canadian singer, who's married to Elon Musk and has children with Elon Musk with strange names. Right. And she says, clone my voice with AI and we'll split the royalties. So she wants AI. AI apparently is leading to a lot of voice cloning. Even just a 3-second snippet of somebody's voice allows you to clone their voice. It's
They'd have yours down pat like that immediately.
I don't know, I think technology...
3-second snippet.
Technology struggles with my voice. This is a YouTube automatic subtitle thing. So I thought I was German.
It's just the politics. So she's all up for it, Grimes, anyway.
Yeah.
She says she'll split the difference with anyone who can
That's very big of this wife of a multi-billionaire.
I like it, though, she said. Grimes is. She speaks of herself in the third person, or like she thinks of it. She says Grimes is not a music project, it's an art project. Yeah. And we embrace anything that even might be bad news for us. I quite like that. I mean, I don't know if it's sincere, but...
But arguably, this is the future. Already there was a massive sort of online hit of a song with Drake, like fake versions of Drake and the band Weekend or whatever. So, I mean, this is where things are going.
At the moment, it's only affecting music that I already regard as, pretty thin drivel, like mass-produced nonsense. But there will come a point at which, my favourite singers, I suppose, some of whom are dead, I don't know how I would feel about that, but maybe quite good. Wouldn't mind hearing Frank Sinatra sing Creep by Radiohead or something. Over to Lyon now with the Daily Mail, and the French have come up with yet another opportunity to take all their clothes off.
The museum guests will have to strip naked to enter nude exhibition. Visitors to a French art venue will be told to remove their clothes, and then they're invited for a drink and a chat. Now, I actually knew about this. There's a 90-minute session in the Museum of Contemporary Art in Lyon. Yeah. I have booked a ticket with my mother, and we're very excited. I'm just slightly scared that there's going to be lots of white surfaces if that's where we sit down. But...
my goodness. Are you trying to give your mother some kind of heart attack?
Well, you know what? She doesn't watch the show. She's never watched the show, so I'm fine.
I wonder how many people know who your mother is.
But anyway, and also you get a drink, you get to chat about the experience, you get some snacks, hopefully not fondue. And this is
scalding.
But I am curious to see the state of your physical being, how that will affect how you appreciate the art. Yeah. I wonder, there must be some correlation there.
Well, there is a thing, isn't there? The French are more used to literally getting naked on beaches and so on. But, I mean, I think they also, to some extent, possibly are in better shape. I mean, when I picture it, I do picture, the sort of people that I normally stand behind trying to look at some art in a gallery, and it would just be hideous.
Yeah.
But possibly they have a lot of very slender, elegant, you know, willowy figures. Maybe, I don't know, maybe...
I've seen some films, and they do.
You're selling me.
Yeah.
Some art house flicks.
Anyway, we've got to get through the last couple of stories in 2 minutes. We'll stay overseas later with the Telegraph. Holy cow! Drinking bovine urine turns out to be bad for you.
Yes, a lot of people in India are drinking cow urine, and they say it's good for you, but I think that's utter Pradesh. Little joke there. It's Ayurvedic medicine, which is a huge market. It's worth £7.8 billion, which in India is even more.
You could have gone for Udder Pradesh as well, but that would be two puns with each other.
That's mixing your puns.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of like it's like alternative therapy. So there's a lot of sort of snake oil being sold on the internet, and items are being found to
which is good for you, snake oil.
Buy
it
snake
depends
oil.
if you want the snake to smoothly slip all the way.
But yeah, some of these items are found to contain toxic levels of heavy metals, including lead, as well as insecticides, pesticides, industrial solvents, antibiotics and steroids. Sounds like an average ready meal.
Some of the cow urine contains cow urine.
It's exactly. It's not as if you need heavy metals.
Also, the rest of the cow urine is cow urine.
I kind of think that sounds like the cows are not grazing from the greenest of pastures, though, possibly. I don't know. But it's Ayurveda, though. This is like 5,000 years old, isn't it?
Some of the stuff, there's some stuff in it that has been adopted by Western medicine as well. So it's not all quackery.
Well, finally, the Daily Mail, Josh, and we have 30 seconds to discuss the further evidence that dieting is pointless. You might as well live.
OK, bad news, women. Men lose twice as much fat by dieting. So for 30 seconds, let's just go...
Until the menopause, in fact. And we know why it is, I think. It's because testosterone does incline you to become more lean. It balances the metabolism in that way. And women's testosterone goes up after menopause and their estrogen comes down. They become slightly more manly.
You had to ruin it, didn't you?
Yeah. So there's that to look forward to, ladies. The show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Wednesday's front pages. The Daily Mail. You need to accept that you are poorer. And Chocolate Charles. The Telegraph. Harry Court claims leave coronation peace hopes in tatters. The Guardian. Charles undermined the Queen's over plan to sue Murdoch, says Harry. The Eye. UK troops ready to use force in Khartoum airlift. Daily Mirror has food banks heartbreak. And the Metro, run for your lives. Those were your front pages. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. Tune in at the same time tomorrow where Josh will be wrestling with Lewis Schaefer and Diane Spencer. Hopefully no snake oil involved. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Dubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is two new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Good evening. As our Foreign Secretary appears to go weak on China, we ask, should we trust that country? Joe Biden announces, yes, he's running for the presidency yet again, but is it really credible for a man who doesn't seem to have his full mental faculties? And the plight of Britons, 4,000 of them nearly stranded in Sudan, appears to be getting worse. We ask the question, has the Foreign Office dropped the ball once again? But before all of that, let's get the news with Bethany Elsey.
Nigel, thank you. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has confirmed the first flight evacuating British nationals out of Sudan has left, with many further flights being planned. Earlier, British Air Force personnel boarded a plane from Cyprus to Sudan to help with the operation. The evacuations were given the go-ahead after Sudan's army and a rival paramilitary group, which have been fighting for more than 2 weeks, agreed to a 72-hour ceasefire. But there have since been reports of gunfire and explosions in the capital, Khartoum, and in Omdurman. The Prime Minister says they're doing everything they can to evacuate people safely.
The first flight that left took everybody that was at the airfield and eligible is on that flight. There will be more flights this evening and then many more into tomorrow. We're contacting people both directly, but also we've issued out a general call for people, if they can make their way to the airfield, they will then be processed and safely evacuated. At the same time, we can't guarantee the long-term sustainability of the airfield that we're currently using. So we're also exploring and standing up other alternative routes for safe exit.
Nicola Sturgeon has spoken out about the police investigation into SNP finances, saying she couldn't have imagined the events of the past few weeks in her worst nightmares. The former First Minister also said it wasn't true that she stepped down because she knew about the problems about the untold within her party. She was appearing at the Scottish Parliament for the first time since her husband's arrest. Peter Murrell, the party's former chief executive, was questioned by police earlier in the month and later released without charge. The party's treasurer, Colin Beattie, was also arrested last week and released pending further investigation. President Joe Biden has officially announced he's running for a second term in office, saying the next election will be a fight for democracy and personal freedom.
The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. That's why I'm running for re-election.
The US president also confirmed that Vice President Kamala Harris will run again alongside him. And Donald Trump has released a video criticising Joe Biden for the so-called damage he's caused to the country and has called on his supporters for their vote.
With your support in the election, we will defeat Joe Biden in 2024. We will rescue our economy. We will crush inflation. We will stop the invasion on our southern border. We will restore our nation's dignity, and we will prevent World War III from happening.
And a man who murdered a 2-year-old while her mother was asleep upstairs has been sentenced to life in prison. Kyle Bevan caused catastrophic brain injuries on Lola James in July 2020. She died in hospital 4 days later. The 31-year-old denied responsibility, claiming the family dog pushed her down the stairs. He was convicted in April. Lola's mother, Sinead James, has also been sentenced to 6 years in prison after being found guilty of allowing her daughter's death. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+, radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now it's back to Farage.
Tonight at Mansion House, in an annual speech, the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, will speak exclusively about